morning, good morning, good morning. Phil Davis, Ancestry Lands, ancestrylands.com. Good morning, everyone. We are doing another sunrise drive. Right now I got this big old, that's crazy. You got to back up and let trucks have the space to turn, because they cannot turn. I can't stress enough how many times when people drive, they have no awareness of the cars around them, the amount of space they need to have between them and another car. They believe driving right up a car's behind is going to give them more time on their drive, when it won't. They're also speeding past and rushing. And don't get me wrong, who doesn't like to go above the speed limit? Not that I would encourage it for legal purposes. Don't want anybody saying I told them it was okay, but I understand the allure or the attractiveness of the speeding. The feeling of going fast is somewhat of a dopamine and high, if you will, any which way. Folks, we're going to take a different route today, so take me on my journey as we go through right now we're in the nearby the town of Villanova. That's Villanova University, if anybody knows where that is. In Pennsylvania, just outside Philadelphia. Is considered one of the suburbs of Philadelphia, if anybody knows. Yes, folks, I live in the suburbs of Philadelphia. That's where I moved to. I've always been a suburban kid, even though I've gone to many a city. But I like these suburbs. The suburbs give you a hometown feel. Even though people can be somewhat liberal, even progressive, they still tend to operate in certain, I would say, conservative forms of society, because the community is smaller. If you watch the videos of me entering into the city, you can see where the person starts to lose oneself and disappears into merging with people, and it becomes more of an homogenous thing. People walk past, they don't look and say good morning, they don't smile, they're in their own world, they're isolating themselves, shutting out the outside world when they're in the city. And I think you can see that phenomenon quite often if you are going into any kind of suburban area. You watch your interactions with local people. They will greet you, they will acknowledge your presence, they will even give you the civility to look you in the eye and acknowledge that you're a human being walking past. And if you just walk down one block of the city, any city to be that, for that matter, you'll start to see that people just kind of look straight. They barely make any eye contact. And you probably have a day's worth of social media content just walking down one street. In any case, folks, I come to you today with a little bit of I want to say I'm slightly angered, but one thing I want to let you know is that you cannot let people who are going nowhere bother you. And I'm going to say that again. You cannot let people who are going nowhere bother you. And that could be someone who's currently at this time successful or not successful. That could be your family member, and most often than not, you will see the people who are this way, that want to bother you, that want to say things to get a rise out of you. They will be your own family, friends, and people in your immediate social circle. And we could use God as a placemat to insert God, which would be destiny, manifest, whatever you want that can satisfy your sense of spirituality and guidance without being tied down to being responsible for answering to a higher power. I definitely have interpreted that the replacement of God to manifest, this spiritual thing that's really taken God out of it, is a way for people to sub-deify themselves in a way that they are in control of something that they're not. Yeah, I'm going to manifest it. You can sit there and manifest $1 million, it don't mean it's going to come. Again, because what people tend to do is they do all the manifesting, the hoping, the wishing, but they don't do the work. They don't do the labor that's associated with making that millions. So, and it's become so insidious that it becomes everything from finding a man to finding a good husband to finding a good wife. And I don't see that with men a lot, because men, at least when I say there's a difference between a man and a male, men do not deal with the whole manifesting until you start to get into the C-suite or corporate level, where that becomes a thing again. And, that is the whole business mindset, because in business, a lot of times, selling mindsets are profitable. They are. They're very profitable. So we're going south today, folks. This route here, South 476, will actually take you right into Eagle Stadium in the Philadelphia airport, which we were driving now. I went on Google Maps and I looked at the routes, which I do every time before I take off on my journey. You always want to make sure that you have your route plotted out, so you know your time. A lot of people just hit the address and hit start, and again, they're relying on something else to take them to a place that they have no awareness of. And again, we talked about that word awareness. And awareness is something that, again, be aware of your surroundings, be aware of danger, be aware of people who pose a threat to you if you are not aware of them. I had an interaction at work myself, not because I said anything out of character. I was just making a comment on, my wife and I's marriage, in the sense of that, hey, we really don't celebrate Valentine's Day, and this bothered a particular person to the point of, and I didn't know it at the time, and, it bothered them to the fact of not understanding. Again, I'm not married to them at all. It was just a kind of open conversation about, hey, what'd you do for Valentine's Day? And we don't really celebrate it. We have an anniversary that's in April. And, when you're married, at least in our marriage, and I think some marriages might apply, the anniversary becomes more important than Valentine's Day. And I mean, if you really think about it, Valentine's Day is really a one-sided holiday that's meant to celebrate the woman in a deified way that, again, I've had many a Valentine's Day and I've rarely got the same equivocal gifts that I've given a woman. Women are expected to get diamonds, pearls, this, because again, it drives up commercialism, and I think this age now, people start to understand the sell point behind the holidays, and that's why you see a lot of people complaining about the meaning of certain things being lost, because we understand that this was brought up to be commercially driven. And you see people shedding that tradition and adopting something else. Now, I don't know what they're adopting right now, but hopefully, what you're seeing right now is first the shedding of the holiday, the breaking away from tradition, and what you hope is that it grows into something a little bit that's better, and it just doesn't get replaced by the new best thing. And that's where you want to see it grow into, but that doesn't always happen. So, and I say that because when I spoke about this, one thing I've never talked about is that, and I made the comment was that, hey, my wife had proposed to me. Now, a lot of times when I say things, I don't always say things with a chronological, the comment's not done chronologically. And, you would think in this world where equality and feminine equality, and this is not to, be kind of anti-feminist, but you would think with women wanting more rights and power, the power to ask a man, instead of being held down by the traditions of a man is supposed to ask a woman, you would think that women would look at that achievement of being a woman saying, I can decide, I no longer have to wait on a man to ask me to marry me. I could ask a man to marry him, and before you all go down the route of this person of lesser tact and emotional control and professionalism that I work with, I would say to you is that when I dated my wife, I truly courted my wife. I want to say the first week or so, I asked, and again, I apologize for the sun. We're with sunrise, and I mean it. Sunrise is in the east, and it does set in the west, but you get to see the sun in its glory as it comes up. For all you people who think that the sun is some firmament or whatever you're calling it, it's right there in front of you, folks. Big old red ball or yellow ball, whatever, But so my point in saying that is that, I asked her father, would he be okay if I courted his daughter, and eventually asked for a hand in marriage. And we probably had only been dating maybe about a week or so, maybe. Not a very long time at all. But I knew when I met her, I was intent on marrying her because I was dating her with the intent to marry. I was at a point in my life where I was no longer interested in being with women for the purpose of just being with them. I wanted to be with them for the purpose of pursuing something greater than myself. And people might say, oh, he's conservative or traditional, whatever else. It wasn't a traditional thing. It was a respectful thing. Because I, too, have a father with a daughter. And the man she chooses, I still have to be somewhat involved in the fact that if my daughter becomes pregnant or the man decides to leave her, she's going to be my problem eventually. So, and again, that loss of fathers doing that, because people say, oh, it's progressive, let's be progressive and let's skip that. Respect for parents, the parent that you're dating, of a woman you're dating or a man you're dating, that should not be thrown at the wayside to sacrifice in the pursuit of progressiveness. It shouldn't. No more than women are looking for progressiveness to have respect for a man not being domestically violent against them, then that respect or equality in that way should extend a courtesy to the parents. And I did that, and the father was like, sure, man, if she wants to marry you. That was the first thing out of his mouth. If she wants to marry you, then I'm okay with it. He didn't say if you want to marry her. He said if she wants to marry you, then I'm okay with it, because it'll be her choice. Which means if she wants to marry me, she would have to accept my offer. And again, but I would have to want to marry her. And again, when my wife asked me to marry her, it was on Valentine's Day, and I'll never forget it. It was running a bubble bath. I know. The second a woman does something for a man, oh my gosh, you had to see this woman was like Tom and Jerry when Tom was on, when he would get stuck in the butt with a hot poker. Be it that this is, if you're asking me if this woman's married, you should already answer this question yourself. She's not, divorced, unhappy, and all the check marks that you could define on a woman who thinks she deserves better, but does not earn better because of the way she views and treats men. You could clearly see this. And what does this have to do with land, you'll ask? Well, let's get to that. Well, we'll get to that point. What it has to do with land is that I sell land. That's just a modality. Land is just a vehicle that I use to grow in my wealth, entrepreneurship, to be able to create a generational legacy. Take land, change it out with real estate. Take land, change it out with Amazon. Take land, change it out with any form of business that you are looking to be productive, and you eventually will encounter this type of person. Does it need to be male or female? It could be either one or both at the same time. And again, your happiness in something that is, again, is unusual nowadays. Because, I mean, how many young people are below 50 have been married for 10 plus years? It's not a common thing. It isn't. Marriage for 10 years with a person who's 30, and again, I'm in an interracial relationship, which we saw by the stats, I'm actually in the highest. A black man with a white woman is the highest divorce, more likely to divorce than actually if you married your own black counterpart if she married her own white counterpart. We're at a 200% more likely time to divorce in that statistics, and we've been together almost 11 years. And I explained to these heathens, these mongrels, that the reason why my marriage has lasted this long is because when I married my wife, I wasn't leading with love. Love is something that can wane and wax throughout the years and time. Sometimes I love my kids and sometimes they do get on my nerves. I still love them at the end of the day. But when you're entering in a relationship, a real relationship that you're going to start taking on fiscal responsibilities. And again, this is when you're building a company, when you're building wealth, you see tons of marriages go by the wayside. You see tons of these professional athletes get ran through the coals over millions of dollars over child support for a girl they knew just for a weekend. That's why this matters to you, because you are the people who are going to look to build businesses that are going to be leading with your nether regions instead of leading with your mind. And that's what I did not do. For once in my life, I didn't have the girl that I was enamored with by her looks. And I didn't have a marriage that I wanted to be emotionally based in that lead. Now, again, people will always deflect to, well, you know, you got to love somebody. Again, the you got tos, the should-haves, the could-haves, the haves, the absolutists here with their vagueness. They're absolutely vague and non-specific. These are people that when you give them alternatives to what they're going to call it traditionalism or conservatism. No, what you're doing is not being a follower, going along with something that's been broken, doesn't prove to be a successful outcome, or yet these people do not have the results to show that their way is better. And I'm really big on that. Don't tell me that this is how I should do it or you're fine with it. Show me how your way is better. And can it be replicated? Because again, you may not be able to replicate Jeff Bezos' his process to becoming one of the most richest people on the earth. If you cannot replicate it, then it becomes an outlier. If you cannot replicate something that's successful, then it just becomes an outlier. And again, what we do is we hold on to idealisms, not pragmatisms in these moments, because it doesn't. What it does is that it does not define our inferiority. It keeps us from admitting that we are the inferior product and we cannot achieve that greatness. Because again, when you don't define something, you keep it loose, vague, open to interpretation, and again, people tend not to follow it, or it keeps you on the hook long enough for people to believe it whose minds are weaker. That's why the Bible is non-specific. It's meant to be interpreted. That's why people can manipulate it. People can use it to their own doing because it's non-specific. There are certain things that are specific, and those are the parts that people look over. Those are the parts that people leave out. Those are the parts that people don't want to talk about. Because if preachers started preaching that point, people would get very uncomfortable about being in that congregation. Or it would show that you cannot have dualities in life that go against an absolute teaching. And pretty much it doesn't help with the money train. And we'll get off of that note. So like I said, you know, my wife proposed to me. Now, again, I had already long proposed to her. She had already had a ring on her finger. But again, what happened in this exchange was that those details were not presented to a person because they never took the time to ask them first. So once they heard the one thing that they don't want, now they're all about, you know, people being happy, all about loving men, and that's what you'll hear, all the defense mechanism, but their first reaction is their truest reaction. And what I tell you is that at this point in my business life, I've learned to become less reactive to a person's emotional reaction. Especially when they're trying to get a rise out of you, if you will, or take you off your path, get you upset to do something emotional. You know, men, we talk about stoicism and things of this sort, but stoicism is not just walking around with a flat affect, not affect, affect, A-F-F-E-C-T, affect. Like effect, but affect. And affect is your presentation, the way you look on your face. You know, a celebration comes and you have this flat face, that's called an affect. It's a nursing term that we use. It's not restricted to nursing, but it is a nursing term. You have a flat affect. But a person has a very strong emotional reaction. The stoicism is being able to be emotionally controllable at that time. To not raise your voice, not to be upset, not to take a defensive posture. Because if you were being stoic, which men like to use buzzwords again, oh, I'm stoic. You know, we like to add badges of honors to us that we never learn. Well, and guess what? In the Boy Scouts, you needed to actually go out there and start a fire to get the kindling badge. You need to actually make kindle and tinder to be able to get the fire patch. And I've never gone to Boy Scout, but I know it was about earning, not claiming to be something. And that's the problem. We got men out here claiming to be things, and it's driving these women crazy and frustrated. And then when you get a person who actually is doing and earning the step-by-step results, the step-by-step outcomes, such as yourself and other people who watch this channel, you got to deal with people who are going to attack that at every level. You know why they're going to attack that? They're going to attack that because, again, it shows or creates a sense of inferiority within themselves. You'll have siblings be that way. You'll have parents be that way. I've got people in my own family that, again, need to put themselves on a hierarchy because they have a title that means that they are above me. But again, we still are operating laterally. Yeah, you may be a parent, but again, I'm your child, not a child. Which means, again, I can smell bullshit when I hear it. I'm talking to someone directly. If I hear you saying bullshit to me, well, guess what? I'm not going to buy it. I don't care who you are. Your title means nothing if you're lying to my face, looking to deceive me, talking about you're a person that I'm supposed to respect or look up to in a hierarchical way, but you've chosen to sacrifice your own values and think I'm supposed to accept that on your title alone. That's where I'm your child, not a child. Because a child will cower in fear because they have to respect a parent. But an adult child will look at you and say, no, sounds like a crock of shit. Go take that somewhere else. And I apologize for the language. But again, this person says that and gets even more crass, disrespectful. And you know this has to be in front of people. And again, about something that they have no choice, they have no availability to themselves, they have no option. It's not like they would be an alternative choice even if we had met in the world. They wouldn't be chosen at all. And I don't claim to be higher looking or better looking or, you know, this and this. But again, they don't have any man choosing them for long-term commitment, a sharing of resources or anything of that sort. But they have the attitude to assume that they do. They do. But they don't have the results. Over half a century old and, again, going nowhere. But again, when I think back to how I handled that, I see there's a certain level of maturity, a measure of discipline. Shout out to Don Coombs. We talked about that. And the measure of discipline started with me, where I did not need to be offended. I didn't need to be, you know, show my alphaism, if you will, or anything else to that matter. I didn't need to roar because when I looked at this person, I was able to see a person that was screaming and out for help because their situation is not good. They're angry at themselves, trying to project that onto me. And she said something to me that actually could get her put in HR, but, you know, again, if I let a person know that bothered me to that level and that degree, then it would get power over me. And that's the problem with the society now, is that we're so interested in claiming offense to things, and that's because we're giving consent to things. And I've learned that. I told my kids that. You got somebody, I've had patients call me the N-word. Confused patients. Hey, you got to get in bed. I'm not getting into bed. Call me an N-word. Okay, you still got to get into bed. Call me curse words. Mother effer. Okay, but you still got to get in bed. Come on, buddy. You got it. Go ahead. You good. You still got to get in bed. You still have to do what I told you. because they were looking to take away my power. And when they did not, everyone else was offended for me. All the nurses, oh my God, I'm so offended. This is when I worked in a hospital. Any of the California nurses that I've worked with, shout out to my Kaiser nurses, still love y'all, still got love for y'all. They've seen this and saw me sit there and say nothing. But they got to get back in bed, and the confused patient got back in bed. Because I wasn't going to be offended and give them power over something they have no power over. They're entitled to their opinion. They can call me every N-word in the world. And you know what? That's totally fine. You can't just get over because you want to. That's not it. You have to wait for an opening. I'm in my lane. You're in yours. You have to stop. So again, I'm not going to give them power over me. That's not it. They don't need to. Because people are looking to rob you of your power. I saw that on a fortune cookie one day that I had when I ordered Chinese food many years ago, and it stuck with me. I want to say about 20 years ago. No one can make you feel inferior without your consent first. And I tell my children that all the time. So what they called you this? So what they called you that? It didn't matter until you let it matter. Until you decided that that was important. That what they said was the truth. And then when that moment that you reacted, you gave them power. And when people see that you can disarm them, they become a different person. They become no longer a threat. When you can walk away from something because you're just not going to let it bother you, you take away the power of the people. They want you to stay there. They want you to be emotionally, upset. I had a person at work call me stupid because when I said the word vestibule was the interpretation of a lobby or an alternative or a pseudonym of a lobby, because they didn't have the education or the vocabulary, they were sitting there cackling and laughing at myself and another nurse. They said that's an old term. No, it's not actually an old term because it's still a term used today by architects and engineers. The problem is you lack the actual education to be able to have and expand the vocabularies behind being ignorant. And no, this was one person of color and it was a person not of color. A non-melanated person. So it wasn't just, this is only a black thing. The person that called me stupid lived an alternative lifestyle, one of the protected people. But in that same moment, because of the way I am, I went and looked up the definition just to show everybody, hey, look, this is what vestibule means. It means a hallway, an antechamber, or a lobby. Just so that way, not to prove them wrong, but to expand their knowledge and education and show them that, hey, sticks and stones don't bother me. But again, you're wrong. You're wrong. And I didn't let them get underneath my skin. And the person, they did come up and apologize. Hey, man, I'm sorry for calling you stupid if that offended you, whatever else. And I said, you could call Albert Einstein stupid all you want. But it doesn't matter until he first starts thinking it's true. Albert Einstein got laughed at, talked about, told he was lazy. He was kicked out of college. I think he went to Oxford University. Don't quote me on that, but I believe it's true. I do happen to read quite often. And he was kicked out of there because he went against academia and he was considered lazy, and they kicked him out of college. That's right. The father of the modern, the father of the atom, if you will. He helped come up with the Manhattan Project. He was instrumental. Manhattan Project, along with many other scientists. E equals MC squared, theory of relativity. So again, these people are designed at riling you up, attacking you because they're attacking your core. They're attacking who you are. Because again, shadows like to cover and absorb light. Right? When you're a person that generates light, good energy, you're a shooting star. What people like to do is take away that light, find problems with it, find issue with it. See, I'm getting over because there's a free lane here for me to get over, right? I have room here. There's no car coming up behind me. I was able to get over. I didn't have to wait, and I'm just going to dip by and make room and get into another person's lane. But again, shadows like to take up light. They like to absorb light and take light away. The only time a shadow cannot conquer light is when the light is strong enough to make the shadow move. That's what light does. It moves the shadow away from it. But if the light is not strong enough, and this is the difference between a torch and a match. You have a fireplace or a flashlight. I'm sorry, not a flashlight. Well, even a flashlight will do. The weaker the flashlight, when the batteries run out of flashlight, how much can you see? And that's the shadows overtaking the light. When you have a strong flashlight or a strong fireplace going really high, it illuminates and pushes the shadows back. But the shadow wants to absorb the light and push the light back to the smallest denominator. And that's what people like to do to people who do not have a light of their own, because their light has been dimmed. I don't know by who or whatever else, but again, I told that to my wife when I first met her. I said, you cannot let people take your light away. I remember telling her that when we dated, before we dated. You can't let the trauma, that dark parts of the dark history of your own life, you cannot let that take your light away and make your light become small. I want everybody to do an experiment and see if what I'm saying is true. If you listen this long, I appreciate you riding with me to work. We're in the Chestnut Hill area of Philadelphia. This will be West Philadelphia to be exact. On my way, we're coming up to Drexel University. This is coming up from the southern part of Philadelphia, from southwest portion of Philly. That's where we're coming up from. We pass by towns such as Havertown and Upper Darby. And this is what it looks like a lot on my commute. I have to take two routes coming in from the northern route, or coming in from the southern route. But again, I want you to do this experiment for me. And this is a great thing if you're going to teach your kids. I know, most people don't watch this long because there's always something, less valuable to watch on YouTube. But I want you to take a flashlight, a really strong flashlight, and if you can, maybe a match would serve better, or a lighter, like one of those big lighters, and go into a room really dark. And I want you to talk to your daughters and your children and tell them about how shadows and light work. I want you to show them what happens when you have a powerful flashlight. Put new batteries in, everything else like that, and show them how much they can see into the room. First make it dark, then turn on the light, and show them what a powerful light, that light that they have. They start off with this light, which is why we always say children are always born innocent, right? We always say children are born innocent because innocence is a light that they have, right? They have that light that they're born with. They're that strong flashlight. And eventually, the battery starts to wear on that light because, again, they either have trauma, stress, anxiety, or a slew of other events that happen that dim that light, that weaken that battery. And show them, because a flashlight will cut out at some point, what happens when you walk around, turn the flashlight off, and then show them what it's like with that lighter. How much can they see? The darkness around them. How much visibility can they know in a wall? So they're walking through life with a lighter's worth of visibility. And a big light is better because it has a particular shape of that light. Not a strong one, because you get all these strong lighters nowadays. But a big light is a perfect light to use in comparison to any suitable normal flashlight with brand new batteries. That's exactly the test we want. And you show them how much people come at them to try to take away that light. And when you have a bright light, it pushes out all the darkness. And the reason why I say that is that it's true because when a baby's born, everyone is happy in that room. It pushes all that dark away. And why does it do it? It does that because babies have an immense amount of light. An immense amount of light when they're born. But as they grow up, you find that person a woman of 50 years, bald head, miserable, unhappy, thinking that she deserves better in life, and what she's already had, the best she could. We're not always meant to get the hand we want. Sometimes you got to make the best hand with the ones you're dealt. And when you fight that and refuse that, you're going against the cards you have on the table. You're not playing the game. You're playing your game, and you're playing to lose. Because no one beats the house of life. Because everybody closes out and cashes in their chips at the end. Some people win big, some people lose big, some people make a little bit, some people earn a whole lot, and some people, they just never get a winning hand. Does that mean you should give up? Absolutely not. But that means that you got to play smarter with the hand that you have. So folks, we're right in here. This is another part of Philadelphia. It's a different look of Philadelphia, right? One thing I like about Philadelphia, the skyscrapers are a little bit more scattered. You know, there's a little bit more visibility in the city. See, right to my left, you can't see it here. I won't change the camera. Penn Medicine. It's right to my left here. Big old nice building. Anyways, wait, folks. Phil Davis, Ancestry Lands, ancestrylands.com. Folks, I always forget my book on Amazon, Getting Dollars from Dirt, A Beginner's Guide to Vacant Land Investing. It's the nuts and bolts of what you need to know about vacant land investing. How Philip Davis got here. How I got to a channel that's 75,000 strong. How I've used my business model to grow. After that, I became an author. Decided to pass on the knowledge that I shared, that I learned, so other people could learn it too. Some people may not buy property from me, but they can buy knowledge for a much cheaper price, folks. Getting Dollars from Dirt, available on Amazon, A Beginner's Guide to Vacant Land Investing by yours truly, Philip Davis. That's me. Got my picture on the back, folks. I hope you're having a wonderful day. Don't forget, like, share, subscribe, and comment about what you thought was valuable in this video. And I'll see you. Remember, if you don't own property, you'll be owning this property. Peace. I'm out.
Are you confused with today's real estate market? With high interest rates and overpriced housing, it can be hard to find something to own at the right price. Available on Amazon, Getting Dollars from Dirt by author Philip H. Davis is a game-changing book that invites you to embark on a thrilling exploration of this often overlooked asset class. This book is your roadmap to unlocking the secrets of vacant land investment. Inside these pages, you will uncover the transformative power of vacant land as a wealth-building tool. Discover how to spot promising properties, assess their true value, and capitalize on market trends. From understanding zoning and permits to leveraging financing strategies, you'll gain the knowledge and confidence to make savvy investment decisions. With each page you turn, you'll gain a deeper understanding of the profound impact your investments can have on the world around you. Getting Dollars from Dirt is not just a guidebook, it's a call to action. Whether you're a seasoned investor or a curious novice, this book will empower you to tap into the immense potential of vacant land and embark on a journey toward financial freedom and a brighter future.